Alright, everybody, welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live. This is for the week of November 17th, 2019. It's been another interesting week here on the Game Wisdom channel, and we got some design topics to discuss. Join me again, my co-host is indie game developer Shark. How are you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing good. I think that we have potentially got at least a little bit better in our standings on making Project Triad, and despite all the bad things that are happening right now, I feel rather good, kind of thing. How about yourself?
I am doing all right. Face is still healing from all this lovely sunburn. Apparently I have good bones but very weak skin. So I'm hoping that this will clear up in a few days. In a strange turn of events, I'm being asked to appear at a library in New York, possibly in August. That they may be paying for travel and expenses, which just sounds crazy. I already got word from the chat that be careful. This may be just like one of those Nigerian prince scams happening.
Well, make sure they pay for it before you go.
Yeah, or get it in writing too.
Yeah, I'm
We
sure they're
got
pretty
about like
great.
we got like 50 million people joining the Discord channel this week.
Yeah, only a few.
Mm-hmm. And I had to put something in place to try and stop any bots or so. We actually had our first kind of like bot attack, which was very weird.
It wasn't actually a bot attack. It was somebody using webhooks, which is just any person can do, and it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the webhook feature in Discord.
Mm-hmm. And it's turned on by default for anyone to use, which can be kind of annoying.
Yeah, everything's turned on by default pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta go through and manually disable stuff.
Yeah. But I did put up a kind of a quote unquote schedule for the streams going forward. We'll see what people think about that in the little update video that I think went up just before this stream. But there is a
I
lot.
check
What
it
was that?
out yet. As I haven't got to check it out yet, but I'll have to do that soon.
Mm-hmm. But there is a lot to go over, and we do eventually have to go get something to eat, or at least I know I have to. So I won't be here till like 10 o'clock tonight, and then go right to the next stream.
Mm.
But let's begin with some news, as well as some of the games we've been playing. So I officially finished Little Big Workshop late last night after lots of grinding and just trying to get things going. Let's see. Everyone is, of course, playing Death Stranding or the Star Wars Souls games, which maybe we'll put that as a goal, or people can donate for that one. So I guess for you, Shar, have you had a chance to play anything new?
Well, you'll know most of these because you played a lot of them with me or around me. Uh, I played Streets of Rage 1, 2, 3,
I never played
uh,
any of those games.
the Takeover. I have played some Golden Axe. Uh, what else have I played lately? Although Golden Axe isn't new to me, the other four are. I've been playing some Ori and the Blind Forest too.
Mm. I don't
Yeah,
know that game either.
yeah. You don't know any of those games?
No. But Ori is a lot of fun. We'll probably either get back to that Monday or Tuesday night. And I think we're like near the tail end of that game, but I can see why a lot of people really reviewed it highly.
Yeah, it's a really great game,
Mm.
and a lot of people, said that it is the greatest platform ever made. I don't know if it is or not, but
Mm.
I think it's definitely up at the top.
Mm-hmm. The design wise, I think the only thing I don't like is the combat. And again, that's an hour discussion on top of what we have for tonight to get into that one.
Hmm.
Let's see, anything else happening? Well, the new Age of Empires game came out. I'm like debating with myself about picking that one up because I kind of miss Age of Empires 2 when it first came out. And the HD version is, of course, the semi modernized version. And of course, the Definitive Edition has everything in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Age of Empires back in the day. I loved it. I don't know if I could get back into it now, though.
Hmm. Yeah, especially with people who've been playing it for hundreds and hundreds of hours, who have, got the min maxing down to a science.
Yeah, I know another old game that I used to play back in the day with Age of Empires a lot was I think it was called Lords of the Realm.
Hmm.
Do you know that one?
No. It
Oh,
sounds
that one.
familiar, though.
It was during the same kind of time period.
Hmm. Kohan, I think that was called. I've heard really good things about that series. I did not play that one back in the day. And we already got comments about your about your thumbnail there, which we knew it was to be expected.
Hmm. Yep.
Oh, and speaking about Path of Exile, they announced Path of Exile quote unquote 2 is in development. It will be another 7 chapter campaign. But the craziest thing is that they're changing the whole gem socket system. So gems have sockets in them now. So what do you socket into gems? More gems? I think that's just going to create like a black hole effect.
Yeah, really.
Mm.
You know what's it's funny is everything's tying together. Like
Mm-hmm.
the all the games that I played this week, almost all beat 'em ups are my thumbnail, which is me beating up Sasuke, and then we have the beat 'em up topic, and we have the couch online topic, which is used for beat 'em ups. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is meshing. We have a 100% synchronization here.
And that does not happen often for these streams. But speaking about that, let's get to some of our topics. So the first thing that we'll kind of spend, I think, a few minutes on, this kind of like, I guess, a mini topic, is of course Google Stadia, whatever it's called, is, I think it's either out or it's on its way out, and a lot of people aren't exactly too thrilled about this. If you missed the original announcement, the platform is essentially going to be a streaming service that allows you to play any video game as long as your internet connection is good enough. And of course, you have to pay for the service, and you have to pay for the games as well. And of course, Google was throwing out as many marketing speak and buzzwords as it could to try to get people involved with it. And it's not exactly sounding like it's ready for prime time here.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at all the things they were saying, and even with all the things they were saying, it's like you're not selling me here. I mean, you're overcoming some of the negative things that are with your platform, but you're not like getting to like a net positive kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. And now they recently, said that basically what 80% of the things they promised they're not even going to deliver on
The
until
games aren't either out yet, or
later.
they may have been delayed, and
All these features aren't going to be coming in until a year, 2 years down the road.
mm-hmm. And what is the cost of it? I'm gonna have to look that up really fast.
I mean, this feels like an early access platform release,
Mm-hmm.
just like the Epic Store did, and still is technically
Yeah,
an
there've
early
been
access storefront.
there've been
But this is not
updates to
early
the
access.
Epic.
Do what?
There've been updates to Epic, but it's still, you
Early
know,
access.
yeah, it's still like 5 years behind Steam.
Well, it doesn't have to catch up to Steam. It just has to
Be
at
good.
least get out of early access.
Yeah. All right.
Get a
So,
shopping cart, become a functional store,
mm-hmm.
have basic achievements.
Yeah.
Just the.
Screenshotting would be very useful too.
Mm-hmm. If they could just get the basics and get out of early access.
Mm-hmm.
But seems like Stadia is going to go the early access route too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in early access that you have to pay for,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get hardly any games, and then the games are supposedly going to be even more expensive on there, and they're going to be old games.
Yeah. So, and of course, trying to find the exact pricing for it is always its own little challenge. So, it's going to have a free version. It only allows you up to 1080p for your resolution. You can buy the games that you want. You will not get free games. No discounts. The monthly service for $10, you can buy the games. You get additional free games, kind of like the Games Pass. But if you want to buy a controller, it's $69 for it. And if you want the special super fancy bundle, that's $130 up front. And that comes with a 3-month subscription, which you'll then have to, pick up after the fact.
Don't you also have to buy the box to actually use the service at all?
Let's see.
Then you have to buy some kind of physical product to even connect to it.
Oh, that's even better. 3 months of
Yeah, you
Stadia
have to pay
Pro.
to pay.
Google Chrome. What the hell's a Google Chromecast Ultra?
That's like a little plug-in thing that you can plug in the back of your TV.
Jeez.
And yeah, I think that's one of the things you can buy to do it. Of
But
course, some smart TVs have those already built in.
but you can get Destiny 2 for free if you buy all that.
Yeah, you get Destiny 2 for free if you pay, I don't know,
$130
to $400, and then you can, and then another like what, $15 a month or something like that. So you get a game that used to be worth $60 that is now probably what, $30 for free, for quote unquote free, if you spend $400 plus $15 a month for life. And it'd be free.
Oh yeah, sounds like a really great deal. And looking at the games that are available on it, again, it's like, okay, I'm sure people want to play Final Fantasy 15 or Mortal Kombat 11, but I think it's running into that same problem that the Steam box had. That if I have a PC, why do I want a Steam box? If I don't have a Steam box, change I already have a console, so why should I want a Steam box again?
Not to mention you have to have amazing internet, which means you can't live in the U.S. or have to live in a super major city. You have like Google Fiber.
They'll put an internet package deal on top of all that just to really drive the point home.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't look like it's going to be doing all that much. And I'm looking at the games list now. I don't think there's any platform locked games to it, because who would be crazy enough to release a game only for the Google Stadia? Unless you're already
one
bought.
indie game that is only for the Stadia.
Which one?
I don't remember the name, but it was close to the top of that list. I think it was second or third on that list.
Well, it's definitely not Baldur's Gate 3. Not Destiny. Get Packed. I think I saw that one. Gods and Monsters? No.
No.
Guilt? G-Y-L-T.
I think that's the one.
Which one?
The Guilt one.
Okay.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
The issue is that they still haven't overcome the other issues that everybody's been complaining about. Like, what happens if they decide to, end their service? And they haven't addressed that. And they also said, just trust us. We have a history. And then they showed 10 or 15 things that they did successfully, and they kept updating it. What they didn't show was the thousands and thousands of things they abandoned at the first chance they had, which I'm pretty sure that's the way Stadia is going to go at current rate, because the early access and all this other stuff, like all these issues just add up to them abandoning it.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
And that gets abandoned, we don't know what happens to the rest of the games.
Yeah. I mean, you may just have thrown away every bit of your money, because you may have bought all 10 games they have available on there and spent $600 on that, and
Mm-hmm.
then poof, they're gone.
Here's one game that is definitely exclusive. I was kind of confused about this when I saw it. Orcs Must Die 3 is going to be
Hmm.
exclusive to Google Stadia because Google is basically paying for the game.
Wonder how long that'll last.
I don't know. We'll
I
have
mean,
to.
you think it'll still be exclusive after Stadia goes up in smoke?
Mm, hope it doesn't go free to play like the other one that they did. Mm.
Mm.
But speaking about like online services and stuff like that, that's a good segue into our first major topic, and we'll see how long this one will last for. And that has to do with something that we've been talking about more on the streams lately, and why it's kind of a very big deal. And it's surprising me that more people aren't talking about this. And it was a feature Steam rolled out about 2 weeks ago that I think should have been mentioned by everyone on YouTube gaming. That kind of I think shows like their level of understanding game development that they're not talking about, and that is the idea of remote couch co-op. So the idea is basically you can stream your screen and your game to anyone on your Steam friends list, and they're basically able to interact with it just as if they had a second controller or a second keyboard and mouse in the same room as you. So you're essentially tricking the game into thinking that you're playing it locally when you're actually playing it remotely. And I know that doesn't sound like too exciting, but this is a ridiculous huge deal for being able to play games remotely, and more importantly, for giving value to a lot of these games. So over the last 2 weeks, Shark, Mojo, and a few other people and we've been playing games remote couch co-op while streaming, and essentially able to play these games that it was literally not possible to play them remotely or online beforehand. And I don't know about you, Shark, or about the chat, but I think this is a massive deal, not only for Steam, but for independent developers as well.
Yeah, I do think it is absolutely massive because it is so much easier to just do couch co-op into a
Mm-hmm.
game. And up to this point, I've talked to many developers and whatnot, and they're making multiplayer games and whatnot, and they say that they're putting local co-op in their game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so it's going to be a single player game then, right?
Yeah, and like that's always been that discussion. I mean, if Mojo's watching this right now, I mean, how many times have we brought up this game is great, but why is it not multiplayer? And again, we've had this discussion many times over on the stream about online connectivity is a very big deal. It is very hard to do right, and maybe near impossible if you try to do this after the game was released. And to Draken's point, yes, it did work. That's what we played last night. And we could possibly get another person for a 3-player remote couch co op, which sounds insane. But one of the reasons why a lot of developers don't go for online multiplayer is that it's a huge expense, it's a lot of work, and in many cases it may not be worth it to the developer to spend all that time and money on it. So with this remote couch co-op play, essentially in a weird way it takes the developer out of the equation of their own game and just allows every game to have online multiplayer. Well, almost. I think it's very important to point out that this really only works for local screen-based games. So, like, if we were trying to play, I don't know, like, pick any multiplayer-based shooter that doesn't allow for split screen view, this wouldn't work on it. Because essentially the other players are sharing my screen.
Well, that wouldn't be a local co-op
Yeah.
then.
Mm-hmm. It's gotta be a game that has essentially, again, like couch multiplayer to it.
Hmm.
But again, like this is a amazing deal that I think more people need to talk about. And we've been having this discussion, while we were playing these games about what are the implications of this going forward? Because, like you said, Shark, many developers will say, I'm only going to develop local co op. But if this allows those games to be, multiplayer simply for free, what does that mean from a design standpoint?
I mean, it is quite a crazy kind of thing. Like, I mean, I didn't even think about something like this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is like so far outside the box, and it's a huge feature because, I mean, think about it this way. I mean, like, game developers could start just building this into their game
Yep.
to where now it's not just you go through Steam and everything and invite somebody, but they can be like, there's local co-op, a button for local co-op, and then you can hit another button
And
for
pulls up
multiplayer.
the
And this
remote player.
multiplayer button, just links to Steam, pulls it up, and invites that person you invited from your Steam
Yep.
list, and it just connects them, automatically, and also can automatically configure some controls that would be, decent for two different players playing.
Yeah.
Because the thing is when this does go off, both people are sharing a keyboard essentially. Because
Or
if I set my
gamepads too.
controls, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and because if I set my controls for WASD on my keyboard, and
Mm-hmm.
then Josh sets his for WASD, we're both controlling the same character. It's
Yeah. Yeah, that I think, and again, I don't think that's a Steam issue. I think that's just a local co-op issue, how the game recognizes controllers and what's going on. Because when we played, what was the other game that we played? It wasn't a beat 'em up.
well, we played one that would let me. I can't remember which one it was, but it let me recognize my actual controller, so I could use my controller and you could use your controller.
I think it was
So
Enter the Gungeon. Was that one?
it's not strictly limited to devices that are linked to your PC.
Yeah, because it's essentially Steam is tricking the game into thinking that all of our peripherals combined are just local.
Hmm.
And I think, like, and as you're saying, like, this is going to, I think, be a big deal for developers who develop games local couch. Because not only do you have this feature, but you need to make sure that it's actually up to par. Because I think, like, Fight and Rage is kind of annoying with how it sets up control layouts. Like, we have to, that seems like one of those games we have to like, kind of finagle it every time we want to play it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, but developers could use this, and it would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like 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 that one River, what is it, River City Girls or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they seriously, should consider putting out a patch that takes definitely very much advantage of this and
Mm-hmm.
links straight to it, and they can just multiplayer right through it. So you can multiplayer anything through your Steam, friends,
Yep.
and have it all configured and everything to a decent, keyboard mapping and whatnot and controller mapping right from the start, so you don't have to finagle with it, and
Mm-hmm.
that would be just amazing for that game.
Yeah. And River City Girls, again, was a game that a lot of people complained. Why does this game not have online multiplayer?
And you got to think that, did they know that this was coming? And they specifically left it out because they knew this was coming. Because this released not too long after that, after River City Girls released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like so many like party-based games would be amazing for this now. There's that game we played, Bomb something. I spoke to the developer. We had him on for a cast one time. And that game was only local co-op plays, for your buddies on your couch. Well, guess what? It's now an online game.
Mm-hmm.
Completely
Anybody on your
free.
Steam, right?
What was that?
For anybody on your Steam's list,
Yeah.
friends list.
And again, like, there's so much to unpack with this that it's going to be. I don't. Honestly, I think this should be what Steam should be broadcasting on its store page as a major feature.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is definitely like insanely major, and I can't even imagine how much work went into this because
Mm-hmm.
they had to they had to basically create a way to stream your game, so they had to become their own streaming service like Twitch, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Although they had some of that kind of already in there, but very limited. Then they had to set up a way to recognize controls from both computers or even more than one computer, like three
Mm-hmm.
players, four players, and have the game actually recognize all those inputs
Yeah.
without insane input lag kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's a huge task right there. And then
Mm-hmm.
they had to get the game just to recognize all of this stuff, and mm,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to have it where it would it would launch on my computer off of your game without me downloading and installing it.
Yeah, that is the crazy point. Because again, it's kind of like essentially I'm streaming my game to you. So as
Mm-hmm.
long as you have Steam, you essentially have access to my library of local co-op games.
Yep.
And again, like the fact that more people, game journalists and YouTubers aren't talking about this, like to me this is just staggering in terms of them missing the lead here.
Well, maybe this video will go viral because nobody's heard about it except for us, and you'll
Mhm.
get 10 billion views on this,
Mhm.
and this will start the trend of people realizing that this exists. And I don't know how people don't know that this exists.
Yeah. I may actually just cut this part out of the live show and put it up as a separate video just to kind of hedge the bet about more people seeing it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like leave, do like a whole topic and whatnot,
Mhm.
and whatnot, but then like just cut out a section of this to let people see just this part.
Mhm. Have the full stream and then just have this section separate because it is like again this is massive not only for Steam but for independent developers because as we've said multiplayer is one of the hardest things to do let alone making it online and there have been
Hmm.
a lot of games released over this decade that kind of failed on launch because they didn't have online multiplayer. If you remember that game we played Full Metal Furies that that game was amazing, but it didn't have the functionality for online multiplayer, or at least good online multiplayer at launch, and it sunk that game royally because of it.
Mm. Yeah,
And,
I mean, and this brings the question. I mean, you know, sh- is this a reason for developers not to put multiplayer in their game and save all that development time and whatnot? Because this is a big thing. Because
mm-hmm,
if they don't, and they were going to, then that means other platforms that they go to will not have multiplayer,
mm-hmm,
and they'll just have couch co-op. So
unless you
then,
play it on Steam.
yeah, which makes Steam the better platform for that, which is what Steam is going for because they're trying to fight Epic with this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they're not broadcasting it from the ceiling, like you said, because
Mm-hmm.
this is what they're trying to fight them with, and they're not. They don't seem to be, pushing
Yeah.
it, and that doesn't make any dang sense at all.
Yeah. And again, like so many genres benefit from this remote play. Again, we'll talk about beat 'em ups in a few minutes, but party based games, any kind of cooperative based game now essentially has free online development for it. And you brought this up, I think, on one of our live when we were playing this live. Like, do you think this will impact the pricing of games? Because now a developer can say, this $5 game, just local play, it now is free online. Can I charge another $5 to $10 because of that?
I wouldn't say that they can charge more necessarily for it, but like if they do do like I was saying, and like put the go through the extra work and
Mm-hmm.
put in something that just ties directly into the system and make it kind of seamless
Mm-hmm.
to where it just will pull up. You click the multiplayer button, it'll pull up your friends list from Steam in the little UI, the overlay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you pick whoever you want to be invited, and then it's done.
Yep.
If they can get it like two button click done,
Mm-hmm.
seamless, basically, that would be awesome, and that would add a ton of value to the game. I don't know if that would necessarily affect the price of the game, but it could,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what the game is and how dependent it is on multiplayer.
And again, there are a lot of games that the difference between single and multiplayer is pretty massive. Whether it's from a balancing or a scaling point of view, or simply from enjoying the game. Like, to give you an example, we played that Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie game. I think it was last Saturday. And, like, that was one of those games that single player, it's like, it's okay, but it benefits a lot more from multiplayer. Now, that game, or when the re-release, is online multiplayer based, but there are a lot of indie games like that. That the difference between single and multiplayer is huge. Another good one, the twin stick shooter genre. We've played a lot of them on stream, and we've been looking for kind of the big elevated take on that. Well, now all those games have amazing local multiplayer. They now technically have online multiplayer too.
And this I just thought of something else. This pushes games that were only going to be single player kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
into encouraged to be multiplayer because I mean, if let's say you just had a side scrolling shooter, made a solid side scrolling shooter, but
Mm-hmm.
what if it's just maybe a week or two worth of work to put local co-op in there, right?
Yeah.
And then another day of worth of work to make the seamless into Steam, in there.
Yeah.
So like, a week and a day. And now you're able to add a whole new layer of the gameplay to where you can now like if you get a second player, they can, like let's say that,
Mm-hmm.
for one of your upgrades, you could get a turret that goes around you kind of thing. And now that you can get a second player in there and they can control the turret for you.
Yeah. That game of Sparklate that I just played had a local co-op as well. Well, technically, it now has online co-op.
On Steam.
Yeah. And that could be a very big deal for a lot of games that have like kind of like assist modes like that. That you can design games to allow players to help each other, and again, not necessarily worry about online connectivity or multiplayer. Because there are, like, this is one of those things, this could be its own topic as well. There are a lot of creative ways that you can put multiplayer or some kind of multiplayer based system into a title that's not just, two players, fighting the same bad guys. And,
Mm-hmm.
oh, here's a really good one. There's a game that came out a few years ago called, I think, Clandestine. This was a game where, now this one probably wouldn't be available for local co-op because each player had their own screen, but basically one player was supporting the other one. And there's a lot you can do with kind of innovative multiplayer or co-op systems if you take out the need for developing the online architecture from the developer. And to your point about games that have basic local co-op, if you remember that Blazing Chrome game that we played earlier this year, that's another really strong candidate for a remote co-op play. And again, the developer themselves, I know they're not a huge team, so chances are they wouldn't be able to do an online architecture system. But guess what? They don't need to do that anymore.
I'm sure they could, but
Mm-hmm.
at this, after release, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Like multiplayer isn't necessarily the hardest thing you can put in a game,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're going to put it in there, it needs to be pretty much in there from the beginning because
Yep.
the longer you wait to put it in there, the more systems you're going to have to rebuild based on it. So,
Scale, latency, etc.
so when you're building a multiplayer game, multiplayer is one of the first things you want to lead with in the development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it requires far less work that way because like if you were to go with a game that's already done and you try to put multiplayer in there, you're going to have to rebuild for stuff to work with that for probably about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So your 3-year development cycle is turned into 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Where if you plan from the beginning to have multiplayer,
Mm-hmm.
it would maybe go from 3 years to maybe 3.5 years, or maybe not even that long. But something like that, something along those lines. It would be like an extra year plus for waiting and not planning to put it in there from the beginning.
Yeah. And this is, again, one of those big complaints a lot of consumers will throw, that, why does this simple game have online multiplayer, but your game doesn't? And the reason, again, is usually about when did they start to think about having online multiplayer put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, on top of having to change your game engine, in between development, are like two, very big killers of games if you're not properly prepared for it.
Yeah.
And again, so many games can benefit from this. And I think, going back to a point that you made earlier, it does raise a very big question about cross-platform games. Because again, every store is trying to have its killer feature. Why should I buy your game on Epic when it's available on Steam or GOG or Humble or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And this does kind of create its own little mini Pandora's box in a way. Because what if somebody does release a game both on Steam and Epic, and as you said, they only rely on remote couch play as its multiplayer component? Well,
Yep.
if you buy on Epic, guess what? You're not getting quote unquote online multiplayer.
You're getting the inferior version of the game, even though the game itself is the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this would be a killer feature for Steam, and that's what they were going for. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really nice. I really love it. It's amazing, And I didn't even think it was possible, or didn't think about it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, adding this doesn't compensate for all the other bad things they've done, or is still currently doing.
Yeah.
Although I've heard rumors that they are fixing some of that other stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
they are fixing some searchability issues
Yeah.
with for small creators, and I don't know much about it. As far as I know, they haven't released much information on it. It's still in early testing, and I've heard one developer praise it up and down, but I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's they definitely need to work on that along with many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this one feature doesn't fix all the negative things they have, but it is truly a killer feature that is amazing.
And that more people need to know about and more people need to talk about, for sure.
Absolutely.
Let me see. If there's anything else I want to touch on with this. We talked about pricing. We talked about design. I'm trying to. I just had a point that I wanted to bring up, and then I just lost it.
Now you're pulling a Sharky now.
Mm-hmm. No, I've been doing that way before you joined. No,
So I was pulling a Josh.
yeah, definitely. Oh man.
This is just overwhelming, though. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is completely a game changer, and I just can't believe nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. I think the point that I was trying to think about, like as you said, like this doesn't, erase all the problems with Steam. And we get on that topic, that's another 30, 40 minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
it is something that is entirely unique to the platform. That the benefits of it, I think, at this point are incalculable for a lot of the independent developers. And
and, and even super old games. I mean, it's like super like
oh yeah,
games that aren't haven't sold in
10,
ever.
15 years kind of thing.
Yeah, and this just completely changes things for even old games that you already own. So it's not just for developers going forward or for
Mm-hmm.
developers in the last few years. This is from games from long ago that only had local co-op that are on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
That the consumers are getting so much value added to their games and may go back and play their older games that
And it
only had
may
local
also
co-op.
like reignite some of the you know some of those games that didn't sell all that well to begin with. How many people didn't buy a game because they didn't have local co-op to play it with?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just remembered the final point I want to bring up, and then we'll move on. There are a few, I think, issues with this, or at least we've seen a few things that could be a debatable point. As we already said, it does mean that games that kind of threw together their local co-op mode or their key bindings may need to be adjusted or things like that. But we did encounter some latency while we played it. And the only problem is that we don't know where that issue is. Is it the fact that I was streaming the game to other people, and trying to work it like that, or was it an issue with the service itself? And go
It
ahead.
could have been a combo in between
Yeah.
because it could be that their service is not optimized so that what you were streaming was more than what you needed to stream,
Hmm.
so that it was excess load.
But to Mojo's point, we did encounter this when I played it with Shark and with Eric. Now, of course, I think it was bad when you had your internet issues as well. But the other point, I think this may actually become a factor as well. As we said, only one person needs a copy of that game. So that does raise that issue of I could buy a game for $40, $30, whatever, and then I just literally share that with all my friends, and they can just play the game for free essentially.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a we have to go that in many directions because
Mm-hmm.
there's one direction to question to would your friends even bought that game to begin with, and will this encourage them to buy it afterwards?
Mm-hmm. I
And if they weren't going to buy it, then you're not losing a sale.
yeah
But if they weren't going to buy it and now they buy it, you're gaining a sale.
yeah. I think this is one of those cases where I'm going to be on the optimistic side that the people who are going to make use of this probably weren't going to buy the game to begin with because of the fact that the game didn't have online play.
Possibly. I mean, there's. I mean, we can only speculate on this
Yeah.
because there's no numbers, no info that we can possibly go off of. But like the, I think that even with the value that it could potentially take away,
Hmm.
the value that it adds, I
It
think is
it's worth
greater.
it.
So I mean, maybe you would need to mark up your game by $5 or something so that you can compensate for the sales that you lose and the value that's added.
Hmm.
Maybe, but I don't actually know. But
I
just
think I,
speculation.
yeah. I think right now more word needs to get out about it first, and then kind of see where the chips fall after that.
Yeah, because right now with nobody knowing about it, unless you build it into your game, streamlined. I mean,
Hmm.
it
Here,
ain't going to add nobody to your game because nobody's going to realize it's there.
here's a little fun thing. How many developers know that it's a thing? Because if you look on any Steam store page that has local co op, it says remote couch or whatever the term they use available. And I'm pretty sure that must have just been a default feature added by Steam. So, how many developers know that their games now technically have online multiplayer?
That I have no idea. I mean, it could be all of them, could be none of them, could be 1%, could be anything. I don't know because
Mm-hmm.
I know all of the developers, well, a lot of the developers that I talk to on a regular basis do know about it,
Mm-hmm.
which are people we see often over here, Tomo and Ramin and
Yeah.
whatnot. And
Uh, Here is a really good point. I think this is the perfect one to end this section on. I just
uh,
went to the Children of Morta forum, and if you remember, that was a really amazing roguelike that came out, or roguelite that came out earlier this year. That everybody complained that it didn't have online multiplayer to it, just couch co-op. And
mhm.
there's a small thread on their thing, people complain, when can we play this online with friends? Well, guess what? You can play it now online with friends. And I don't think the developers even know about this.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we need to get this thing. You may be. Let me see. No, you're not on that one. You may be on a different one. But yeah, like this is why this part. I think when this stream is over, I'm gonna cut. I'm just gonna separate this section and post it. So for all the people watching this part, separate. Thanks for watching it. But this is a massive deal for so many games, and we need to shout this out from the rooftops. I think somebody give me Game Newell's phone number. We need to tell him to do more coverage on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is one part where, marketing for Steam would be actually a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this doesn't solve any of their negatives or
Mm-hmm.
any of the laundry list of negatives that's on the Epic Store.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to make a super clickbaity thumbnail for this section just to really drive the point home.
Oh yeah, and definitely super clickbaity title, like
Oh yes, I already.
massive Steam update, 2019 that changes the whole world of
Mm-hmm.
online gaming. Something.
Oh yeah, I've already got something percolating in my head for that one. But I think with that, let's move on to our weird game segment because we can easily be shouting the praise of this, and I eventually do have to get something to eat. I need to get some of my energy back before our next stream.
Praise the pizza.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sure they've already thought of that one, Ken. Yeah.
By the way, Ken Zan is the one who made this current thumbnail that I'm using.
Yeah. But I think for Morta, they're it's pretty much I think designed around single screenplay, but yeah, that they could also be doing something along those lines. But again, like this was a free feature now from the get go. But let us move on, and we'll see where things go with that. So
Question is, will this encourage more Steam exclusives?
could be. But we'll end this here for the record, folks, I guess. So, let's see what is happening on Steam Net, or I'm sorry, on Keymailer, or what's coming out in the coming week. Bee Simulator. Did you want to play that one, Shark? I think you want Shark
Is that about
Simulator.
the B movie?
Maybe. Universe Sim. Alright. Let's get to the list here.
Let's go from the good news to the
I didn't mean news. Kyle is
news.
famous. What? The
Oh.
hell?
It's
Kyle.
a game for Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, there is a game for Josh. I mean, it's only fair, but the developer's name is John. Okay, I guess maybe John really wants to be named Kyle.
And apparently wants to be that what's in that screenshot.
And then there's Paul. Is Paul developed by John?
Paul's World. Now we got a game for Paul.
Everyone's just getting games named after themselves these days. Hmm.
We need a game for Sharky.
Yeah. Wait, don't isn't there that party-based game where you play as sharks though?
Yeah.
I don't know what this game is about though.
Which
Okay.
we might get into a game party based with sharks here in our next topic.
Mm-hmm. You can
Something
fish.
I'm
You can
working on.
cook. Okay, but I don't see those systems here. This creation, that one we already looked at. Oh, Kyle Samus has a soundtrack with bonus tracks.
Oh snap!
Spaceships.
What in the world is that, Mojo?
I don't know. What rope? V soundtrack? Wait. What?
It's a DLC soundtrack.
This is not though to VVV. I think that's that game that's like trying to copy the name.
Maybe.
Helm Realm, Oil Mogul. There's another Warhammer game? What?
Oh,
Massively multiplayer strategy game?
and actually, no, that's not what I was referring to, Mojo. I'm referring to something that most of you haven't even heard about.
It seems like every 2 months a new Warhammer game comes out. Age of Wonders. I should probably play this one at some point, although I just don't know if I have it in me again to another 4X game. Alpha Man, that's the Mega Man kind of clone. Forbidden Love with the Ghost Girl. Is Draken still watching?
Yeah, he's still watching.
Okay. It's a massively multiplayer strategy game. Snowman. Parkitect gets, it looks like DLC. Wait. I should really go back to Parkitect. Because that game was in early access for at least, I think, 2 or 3 years. And I never got to play the full version of it.
So it's been 2 or 3 years since you played it?
Yeah. Unlock the King. That's that chess game. Still there. What the hell? Okay.
Oh, that all looks really confusing just looking at it.
It looks like one of like those diegetic UI games. Play it, pull the lever, type this in. Redhead. I was not expecting that. Oh my god, what is this background?
It is that. Look at that smiley face moon boulder thing.
With 50 levels, too.
Oh yeah, you can add more levels and that'll add more value to the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Automation Empire. It's a simulation management game all about... You know, I hate to say it, but this sounds like something maybe right up my alley.
Actually, that does look kind of good. It looks like kind of like a Factorio.
Factorio-like.
What was the name of that one?
Automation Empire.
Automation Empire.
Interesting. Oh, I need to play a game tonight that a developer sent me a link to of a Zack-like. Because apparently Zach Barth has now cornered the market on brain-melty puzzles. Reign of Darkness.
When are we going to get a Josh White?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, we already got one. No, we don't have a Josh White. We have a Josh Punk.
Mm-hmm. And Draken's writing the Josh visual novel game. Which we should never Google.
Punk in it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what you got.
Red Dead Redemption.
Hentai Sniper. Okay. World War. What? That thumbnail makes no sense of that title. Hoarding Simulator. Ooh, the Hidden World of Art.
Somebody needs to find that.
What? Okay. Find the
So
differences.
find the difference puzzle.
Oh, I already found one. Oh, I found two. Let's just do this for the next hour. That will be
And
very.
you don't even need the game. Just look at the screenshots, and there you go.
XP Girls. I'm kind of nervous to click on that one. Avalo Legends?
I don't have red hair.
First person melee. Student showcase. This is all coming out in the next 4 days. Battle Royale. Star Access. Hide and Secret. Asterix and Obelix. You know, I've never really looked at the Asterix comic book and all that. I've heard people really like that.
I don't know anything about it.
This looks like a two-player co-op. Look at that. There's actually team-up moves. Is that available on Steam? Why is it an adventure genre? Oh, man.
Is it indie genre?
Don't think so. I'm going to put in for it.
AAA.
Wait until my article and video goes up about finally comparing roguelikes to roguelites.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Are you
boy.
going to finally answer the question, what is a rogue?
Mm-hmm. Prison Architect... Wait, what? What the hell? Oh, they're doing it. They've gone since Introversion sold Prison Architect to Paradox. They're going for that model. We're just going to release more game systems as DLC. That's the thing. What did you think of Prison Architect? Did you play that one?
I didn't play it. I seen it on YouTube. I mean, it looked interesting, but only to a certain point. It looked like it would get old after not too long, maybe an hour in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I appreciate what Introversion did with that game, but it just didn't hook me. There's a topic there I want to talk about with the whole Bullfrog sim genre. I just don't know how to put it yet about why games like Little Big Workshop and 2 Point worked for me, or at least worked for me better than Prison Architect.
I just thought of a topic, but I don't think it's a topic that either of us know enough to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how to hook players.
Oh, yes. That's a big one right there.
It's a very important one, but I don't know if we know how to answer that. We've been talking about a lot of it.
The hell? Oh, here's another one. Going back to our previous topic, all these party-based, crazy multiplayer shooter kind of games now have online multiplayer.
And that's one thing that, all the Smash Bros. Kind of games, that's a big thing for them.
Dodge and slash and bang?
Of course, if the game wasn't already good, it's not going to save it or anything.
But it can definitely be that little push up the hill for those games. Q Parkour?
But the good games, it might actually save them.
Plutocracy.
Shoe Parkour, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Jeez.
What? Catch the Ball 3. Llama Drama. Alien Simulator. Lost Ember. What is this? Nice effects or nice aesthetic.
So it is.
You're a wolf. Oh wait, explore. You possess any creature that you want. Hmm.
So it's Mario Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. Meets Animal Planet. Hmm. Looks interesting. And the thumbnail actually looked inviting to that one too.
I don't know if you have to please everybody, Mojo. Get a hook in.
Why is this AO? I don't know. I'm kind of leery.
I know you definitely have to put something flashy in there, which is something we absolutely failed with in Chromasia. There you go, Mojo. The word of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You made me say it.
Fit food. Feared the dark. Glaucoma.
I'm curious to what that food is. Is that like some kind of diet plan disguising it itself as a game?
What the hell? I was not expecting multiplayer card game with that title.
And I was also not expecting these kind of graphics with that thumbnail.
Mm. Box. Oh wait, what is Box?
Oh, I think I heard of that game. Or maybe not. I think that's a ripoff of the game I've heard about.
Is it Crate?
I can't remember what the name of their game was, but it was quite big at the at a like an E3 or something, like 3-4 years ago. I
Mm.
don't know if it actually released or not, but it was getting a lot of attention about 3 years ago
Mm.
or so at one of the E3s or whatever, PAXs, one of them conventions.
What the hell is this game?
It's a good question.
The player can jump and run. No, that's good to know.
Mm. It sounds like the game that the guy you had program for you. Did you just take that and just like jump and run, and then now we'll put in the art.
Tangle Teep's getting an expansion. And that was another one of those games that I know a lot of people really liked Tangle Deep, but I just couldn't get past the fact that it was such an old school roguelike kind of game. Like, I really don't have the patience for, like, tile by tile movement anymore.
Rip Chromasia. There's the word of the day for the second time for you.
Well, I mean, like, in, like, a roguelike, we have to tap one, you gotta just keep pressing left, 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 left. I'd rather be
Right.
kind of like, click here, let the guy go all the way over there. Shoot them.
Right.
Toy robot.
Maybe you should tell that to what's his name that was on the cast with you a little bit ago.
Which one?
Uh, the big YouTuber guy. Well, he wasn't a big YouTuber, but he was a lot bigger than you were. I forget his name.
Tim. Tim Russell?
Yeah, Tim. Because I mean, I think he is doing that kind of quick, single
Mm-hmm.
click kind of thing on a roguelike.
Rogue?
But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Just might not be for you.
Hmm. From the developer of Wings of V and I Want to Be the Boshi. Hmm. Hardcore platformer, eh?
Parkour.
Oh yeah, that Wings of V game. I need to see about getting that when it goes on sale. Hmm.
Yeah, board fan likes over exaggerating.
Drink Dr. Brown to recover 8 XP or HP.
8 MP.
There you go. When you get the Josh Light will be like an Earthbound style RPG.
It's super effective.
What the hell is this?
Which one? The Sanic, the hot dog, the movie. What?
What the hell?
That is clearly a meme game. I'm curious to see what their screenshots look like of this meme game.
Alright, let's see. That is a title, alright. What the hell?
For sure, there. It's like no screenshots.
Oh my god. And it's not even an indie tag game.
Oh, so this is AAA. This is AAA level of meme games.
You can really see the AAA budget on this one.
I was honestly expecting better. I was expecting him to use the original sprites from the movie, and meme them up. This is.
Please tell me this is available on Steam.
Oh, it is. I mean, it might even be available on itch.io, but it'll definitely be available on Steam. Definitely.
And that is an amazing title for discoverability, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone can spell that title.
Well, a lot of people can spell Sanic, and that's all they need to spell.
Oh my god. I think this wins the week right here.
Yeah. That.
It wins something.
Yeah. It wins weird game.
Alright, so let's get to our next topic then, because I don't think we can do anything weirder than that. So
I wish it would have been more memey and funny, though.
Mm-hmm. I need to look if that's actually coming beyond Steam. But while I'm doing that, so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the beat 'em up genre. Probably the next 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even more than that. But we've had a chance to play a lot of beat 'em ups lately. Oh,
Yeah,
excuse
absolutely.
me. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. And it is a genre that has kind of waxed and waned in terms of trying to get it back to mainstream. And I don't know, like this is one that, again, going back to our previous topic, I think could see some new light today.
Oh yeah, I have loved the genre since I was a kid. Like this was like my goal in life to go to the arcade to play beat 'em ups because I absolutely loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle beat 'em up, which was in almost every pizza place that existed, and I would spend at least $20 in their machine every time I went to go eat pizza. And every time we went to the mall, and I would play, again, 20, 30, $40 to go play that in the arcade in the mall. And then there was the one that was not in every pizza place that I definitely still very much loved and was in the arcade was the X-Men one, and the X-Men beat 'em up. I forget the name of that one, but that was amazing. And I tell you, if I could buy 2 arcade machines, those would be the 2. I would buy 2 original arcade machines, and if I could buy a third one, I'd just buy one that was like a emulator machine and just put every game on it. But I would have the originals for those 2 because those 2 absolutely changed my life, kind of thing. And the other one I liked a lot was the Simpsons one, but that one was to a much lower level kind of thing. Not saying it was a bad game, but or anything. Just that. Well, number one, I didn't see that one as much as I seen the other 2, and number 2 is usually when they had that one, they had the other 2, and my attention was on the other 2. But yeah, I mean, but we haven't seen too many of those games lately. Like, I mean, they went into the regular Nintendo, the NES, there was all kinds of them on there, but they didn't seem to do the best there. They didn't do bad, but they didn't do the best. But that was because online co-op and whatnot didn't exist back then. You had to have a second controller, and back in those days, getting a second controller was rare.
Mm-hmm.
That was like some real money that you had to put down to get a second controller, unless you got one of the generic ones, which were almost always cheap and bad. And if you had a sibling or just a friend came over, you would give them the crap controller.
And the beat 'em up genre kind of did fade away with the rise of action games. Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, God of War,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And I think here's a very interesting question. What do you feel is the big difference between a beat 'em up game and an action game?
Uh, that's a hard one, I honestly, because like so a beat 'em up game is often multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's pretty much always multiplayer. I don't know of any examples where it isn't. And you go around and beat up enemies, and it's mostly side scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Where action games are more, I don't know, they seem to be more combo focused, and chains and this kind of thing, and they're a lot of times in 3D, but not always. There's many of them in 2D, but they generally don't side scroll. They normally have like a kind of like a Zelda like map, where you can go in any direction when it's in
Mm-hmm.
2D. And I think they have more emphasis on, well, I don't know. They seem to have like a different kind of combat system kind of focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, like as what the chat is saying, like a beat 'em up is usually side scrolling and definitely has more focus on multiplayer, while action games are usually single player and kind of have that adventure aspect to them, or just kind of like more of like a technical feel to them compared to a beat 'em up.
Hmm. Question is what would happen if you combine the two? If you got that technicality in a beat 'em up. I mean, we've already
Mm-hmm.
seen an example of that.
Yeah, with Fight and Rage.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we've been talking about is that a lot of people look at the beat 'em up genre as kind of the lesser version of an action game. But I don't think I would agree with that. I think there is room for iterating and evolving on that beat 'em up design.
Oh yeah, I think that the beat 'em up genre like begs to be like combined with like other genres kind of thing. Like we talked previously about just not throwing different genres together for the heck of it, but when you have a reason to. And um, you know, I after playing all these beat 'em up, it's waking up my urge to make a beat 'em up game. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to, ever since I was 8 years old or so, and playing the Ninja Turtles in the arcade. I
Mm-hmm.
have always wanted to, but the you know I don't know. At some point, probably in the PlayStation 2 era, PlayStation 1 era, my focus kind of went to RPGs and everything,
Mm-hmm.
because I do dearly love the beat 'em ups, but there's limited use in one of those. Where I mean, it's not like there's not limited use in RPG, but an RPG is normally like a 40-hour game, where a beat 'em up is normally what, an hour
Hour to two
less.
hours. Yeah. And I
And
think, getting to what you're saying, like a lot of the beat 'em ups don't really have, the length to justify, spending $20, $30, especially in today's market.
hmm but I think that beat 'em ups definitely could, you could definitely lend other genres, uh, aspects from other genres into them. like RPG stuff could very well mesh into them because that's what I'm currently working on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of designing kind of in the background while I'm waiting on other stuff for Project Triad and whatnot. I'm like and I'm always doing this period, but like anytime I got an idea, I write it down. If I come up with an idea for a different game while I'm working on the other one, I will write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is right now, like I'm thinking about integrating RPG mechanics into it to where there's like a level up system in it, maybe some weapon upgrades, this kind of thing. And it wouldn't be like an RPG; it'd just be RPG
Mm-hmm.
aspects in a beat 'em up. And like I mean, I think an RPG like story could also be integrated into it.
Mm-hmm. And we did see like RPG based mechanics in games such as the River City Ransom series, that Scott Pilgrim versus the World BML. That was a really good one. I don't think you can play anymore.
Yeah, and I think we could integrate like action games into there with their technical combat systems and whatnot, which we've seen in other games, and and
Mm-hmm.
I think there's many other things out there that you could integrate into it and just build up the genre, like do this whole another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I tell you one thing that is absolutely critical to a beat 'em up is multiplayer.
Yeah.
If you don't have multiplayer and you're beat 'em up, you're in trouble.
Even if it is just couch co-op play, like a lot of beat 'em ups, like some of the better ones will scale the content based on the more players, but a lot of them are just designed around. We're just going to assume you have two or three other people playing. We're just going to put like 20 guys on screen, and
Hmm.
typically that doesn't work.
Yeah. Here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be the maximum number of players that you should ever put a beat 'em up? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we generally see two, three, and four players, but what about five, six, seven, eight,
Mm-hmm.
10, 15, 20? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think would be the maximum you could put in there realistically? And would that be based on if you shared the same screen, or would that be based on
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't share a screen? I mean, pretty much every beat 'em up we know just
Mm-hmm.
shares the same screen. But what if you made a beat 'em up that didn't share the same screen?
Yeah. I think that's a question that's really dependent on the design of the game and the scale. Because
What?
you could have like 15, 20 people, but the problem is, how can you keep 15 to 20 people playing on like the same area without devolving to just like a mess of particle effects and graphics?
Mm-hmm.
Like the X-Men arcade, again, that was a 6-player co-op. And that one worked because you had these very large models on screen. Like, you know immediately, okay, there's Colossus, there's Nightcrawler, there's Wolverine, go.
Yeah. Here's the question. Back to that question I asked before. If they do limit it to all being on the same screen, what do you think is the maximum number of players they could do?
Hmm. I think the X-Men example of maybe 6 may be pushing it. I think it depends again on the size of the models.
Oh yeah, X Men did have six.
Mm-hmm. And I think like any more than that, and it starts to become very hard to kind of keep everything focused. Because even when we were playing Fight and Rage, or when Mojo, you and I were playing some of those 3-player beat 'em ups, it started to get very hard to see, okay, who's over where and who's not going to get punched in the face or get a knife thrown at them.
Yeah.
Or Mojo with that backpack who kept smacking everybody with it.
Well, Mojo was just always attacking us.
Yeah.
Period. In every game, Mojo is definitely not familiar with the with you can hurt your allies mechanic.
I mean, BDR's question, I think that may be a little bit too big for that could be its own topic. But yeah, like game length is always should always, I think, in my opinion, be determined by the mechanics at hand. how many different ways can you test the player on your core gameplay? If you can get 30 levels out of it, let your game be 30 levels. If you can get 80, make it 80. But if you only have, let's say, 20 levels of interesting content, you shouldn't pad that out with another 30 levels. Because I think people are a lot more conscious of their time these days than they were back in the day.
Yeah. And the other aspect to that is if you're putting it on Steam, I would I would make sure that you had more than 2 hours of content.
A
At least
meaningful
2 hours and
content.
1 minute of content.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I would say at least 2.5 hours of content.
Yeah.
But that's a quite a large topic to get
Yeah.
into.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I wanted to touch on, and I don't know how long this topic will go. We'll see if we maybe do this in another 10, 15 minutes. We'll give or take that. But one thing that I want to bring up that we brought with Fight and Rage that I think needs to be spelled out more is having that technicality of a beat 'em up. Because I think that's one of the things that's kind of missing from a lot of the lesser examples. Where, like, when we played that Takeover game, it was just mash square, the guy does the same 3-hit animation. We do that for 10 minutes. With something
Mm,
like Fight and Rage, or even with Streets of Rage, there's a lot more in terms of content that you can make use of.
yeah, like in Streets of Rage 1, which I absolutely love this, where you if you got within grapple range of your ally, you would flip over them and then do a jump kick off of them, or you
Mm-hmm.
could flip off of them and then they can flip off of you, and you could do this like kind of cartwheel kind of thing if you kept it going kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I found that feature really amazing, and the game that I'm working on is definitely going to kind of like uh, take advantage of that kind of thing and emphasize that kind of thing where
Yeah.
I want like kind of like all kinds of kind of like combat combo moves to where you're working with
Yeah.
your partner to pull off even cooler moves kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And like one of the things I think that Fight and Rage does get right that we don't really hear about with beat 'em ups is having the characters kind of work together in that regard. Whether it's, I can uppercut him in the air and then you can continue that combo. Or as you said, we can work on we can combine our moves together. And the example that always comes up is from the Simpsons arcade, where like two members of the family can combine. I think like Bart gets on Homer's shoulders and then he like just like punch people like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And BDR, I have added that to our topics list, so we'll potentially come back to that at some point
Yeah.
if we can ever get through our topics list, our ever growing topics list.
Yeah.
But the way that the combos and everything, like if you could like do that kind of thing, and you know, you could also probably even take some things from like the fighting genre to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
You probably wouldn't want to go too far into that, but like some stuff you could do,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm thinking like maybe like a Soul Calibur kind of thing, where Soul
Mm-hmm.
Calibur had where if you're pressing up and you do an attack, you do a different attack. Whether so if you're pressing
Yeah.
up in attack or left in attack, right in attack, or down in attack, or just attack, that's 5 different attacks right there.
Yeah. And that's what Fight and Rage does. So if you press down up punch, you get a different move. Or
Mm-hmm.
or like when you're punching an enemy, if you hold up at the end of your combo, you throw them forward. If you hold back or hold down, you throw them backwards. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of ways of adding more technical play without needing to go, as crazy as, fighting games do 360-degree punch kick square and that doesn't attack.
Yeah, I would say anything that requires anything more than one direction
Yeah.
would probably be a detriment to the game, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's gotta be something you can input on the fly kind of thing.
Something you could even input accidentally.
Yeah. just like with Fighting Rage's moves. I think another
Hmm.
thing is that if you're going to have multiple characters, they should have different moves to them, even if it's as simple as having a different special.
Yeah, I mean, every character should feel special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another key is that the characters have to all the characters, enemies and allies, all have to stand out very much from the background,
Yeah,
and then your characters have to stand out even more
from each other.
from the enemies, the normal enemies, and the bosses have to stand out even more from the enemies and from your characters.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have all these different levels of standing out in there because if you don't, then you're not going to know where you are or where the enemy is or where the boss is, and you're going to get lost in there.
Yep.
And that is very much a part of the aesthetics, but part of the design as well.
Yep. You need, yeah. I think a high quality beat 'em up needs to have an amazing aesthetic to it. Like again, you
Hmm.
saw the difference between the Takeover and Fight and Rage there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Takeover didn't look bad or anything. It wasn't amazing. My so far aesthetics wise, my favorite beat 'em up was the River City Girls,
Mm-hmm.
but that one has other issues and whatnot in it,
Yeah, and
including the lack of multiplayer,
yeah.
which now kind of does have multiplayer. You got it on Steam.
Now here's a
Or
question. Like this is a big one that I think nobody really talks about all that much. How hard should the beat 'em up be? Because as you saw, like, there's a big difference between Streets of Rage 2 and Streets of Rage 3 in terms of enemy AI being able to basically have a attack priority with those grabs, or any enemies being able to flip around and be unhittable while they're doing all their crazy moves. They can still hit you. And we've
you
seen
know,
this in a lot of beat 'em ups, and I've commented on this many times that plenty of them will give enemies auto attack on wake up. That if you're standing next to an enemy and they get up, they will get a frame advantage attack on you that you cannot stop.
I think a beat 'em up is actually a very good place where you're going to add difficulty options.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because things like what you're talking about, like I mean, you think about it, like there was, I mean, beat 'em ups pretty much started in the arcades. I don't know if that's where they actually started at, but that's where they got famous at.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the arcades were meant to beat quarters out of you
Mm-hmm.
if you beat the enemies, but others weren't at the same time. I mean, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one, if you were good, you could go through that entire game, with on one quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But getting that good is very, very hard. Where other games are like so hard that there is no way you can beat that thing on one quarter. Not unless you're like some kind of like speed runner that knows every different aspect of the game in detail, kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Not just getting good, just knowing literally everything about it.
Yeah. And
And then there's others that are kind of on the easy side, and I think that would be a lot of that's in the AI and
mm,
wake up on counterattacks and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I think that would be an interesting thing to add in for like a difficulty options.
Yeah. If you remember when I played that Way of the Passive Fists, they have a focus on dodging and countering enemies rather than just straight up attacking. And we
Hmm.
really don't see a lot of beat 'em ups focus on defense. There's a few. I forget the name of it. I can only think of one beat 'em up that I played that allows you to block attacks from the arcade.
Hmm.
And like that's always been that issue because a lot, as we've said, many beat 'em ups were designed for the arcade first. So that metrics focused design or metrics centric design was there. So they need you to lose quarters to keep playing. If they made it too easy, you'll get through the entire game on a single quarter. What's the point? And the
Yeah.
only way to play those games, or at least play them well, was to exploit the AI. Again, raise your hand if you ever did the jump kick strategy in a BMO. We just keep jump kicking over and around an enemy because that was the safest attack to use on them.
Yep. I did that in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, I did that in every one of those games.
Yeah.
Simpsons, you name it. Because if you try hit them in close range, again, they get like that frame priority attack that it just knocks you away.
Yeah. And again, I think that's something you could, incorporate into difficulty settings. And I think that this would be a a a genre that would really kind of benefit from that because the if you look back in time, I mean, we have
Mm-hmm.
experiences of where it's hard and everything, and there's definitely going to be people who want it to be really really brutally hard and will want to break it. But then you also have people who have never played the genre picking it up on Steam, and they're going to pick it up, play it, and find out that it's insanely hard and meant to knock the quarters out of you, even though you're not playing with quarters, and they're not gonna have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then somebody will come up with a good argument
Mm-hmm.
and
One of
get
my
involved from there.
Here's the very weird thing because you said earlier that beat 'em up should always be multiplayer based. One of my favorite beat 'em ups from the Super Nintendo era was Batman Forever. I think that was the one. Like that one had really good feel to it, but I think that was entirely single player.
Are you sure it wasn't multiplayer because you couldn't play with Robin if you had another controller?
I don't think Robin was in that one. Let me see. Oh, that's the wrong one. Not Batman Forever. The one that came before that. No, what was it? The one with Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer. Hmm. Now I can't think of it.
I don't know.
You want to answer Sharky? I'm sorry. You want to answer Draken's question while I look that up?
Yeah, sure. He wants you to answer it too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it depends on if it's a visual novel. If it's a visual novel, probably not, unless it actually has meaningful choices. If it has meaningful choices, then yes. But if it's a hentai, if it's a visual novel that has no meaningful choices, I'm not really interested in playing that. But if there's meaningful choices
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, then yeah. But or maybe if it's not a visual novel, then maybe. But if it's a on rails visual novel, you can definitely count me out.
All right. Here it is. It was a Batman Returns. That was the one. And I
Batman
think it
Returns.
is only single player in terms of being able to. Yeah, it is only single player in that one.
I don't remember that game.
I think for me, again, visual novel doesn't interest me at all. It would have to have other gameplay elements in it. Like again, like that Subverse game that we talked about. That one could be an interesting, weird one there in terms of where it's going to apply, the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first and only game so far I've ever supported on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it has a lot of potential.
So like something like even with Batman Returns, like the Catwoman fight in that game is a colossal nightmare because she gets frame advantage super attacks on top of everything else. Like the best strategy is to save. Batman gets nukes or these little mini bombs he throws on the ground. You just save him for that. Now, I guess
Question is this actual beat 'em up or is this an action game?
well, it is side scrolling with a lot of focus on combat.
But can you move up and down or is it
Yeah,
just high?
yeah, it has a different level. Some of them are just side scrolling. Some of them are, you can move in and out of the plane there.
Well, the ones that you move in and out, that's definitely beat 'em up. But
Yeah.
the ones that can't,
We did play that on stream. I don't know if you were there for that stream. This was like a few months
Yeah,
ago.
I'm looking at photos here, and I remember.
Yeah. Now, would you like? Here's another thing about like kind of the genre definition. Would you consider like the isometric style games where you can still like punch and kick enemies? Would that still be considered a beat 'em up, or is that more of like of a top down shooter esque?
I honestly don't know. Like, in the end, genres in a lot of ways are not exact kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. Like, they're classifications mainly given by the media to basically say, "Hey, this game's like this game,"
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Like it's a Zachtronics like, and or it's a it's a Magic the Gathering like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a Castlevania like or a Metrovania like,
Yeah.
it's
Depends more on the
it's
mechanics, I guess.
yeah. It's the reason why they were created, from my understanding, is they were created by a journalist and whatnot to easily explain games to them. It's like this game.
What's a roguelike?
Yeah,
Also, because I mentioned Batman, I now have the music from the original Batman game stuck in my head, and that's going to
yeah,
be in there for like the next 5 hours. Mm, yeah, yeah. I think AI and the technical side are very big points about about evolving the beat 'em up. I
yeah,
know I brought this up. How many people played Way of the Passive Fist? Because it's one of those games that I appreciate it so much, but I don't really love that gameplay loop.
yeah. I I own it, and I can't say that I enjoy it. I don't hate it, but I don't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the whole difficulty setting thing. I love that. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The having the different ways to, like, different kind of focus on combat with the dodging and
Mm-hmm.
blocking is very different, but I have always hated blocking in games. So, in a game based around blocking, just
Yeah. And it also gets back to that classic example like, is this just really a very extended QTE segment? Because you have no other real control of how you fight some of these enemies.
hmm
I guess.
yeah. And it seems kind of unreal since the AI basically won't let you fight more than two people at a time. It seems.
Mm-hmm. And they are limited based on their. They use fixed patterns for those fights.
And it's the same exact patterns over and over and over again. It's never different really. They have two different moves and or two
Mm-hmm.
different combos they'll pull off, and they do nothing but those things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's super limited.
Yeah. So to begin to wrap things up, let me check our time. Yeah, there's one thing I want to bring up, and this is a question for you, Shark, and for the everyone watching. When it comes to a beat 'em up, do you like a one button combat system, or do you like having like two or maybe even three buttons for like how combat plays out? Like punch, kick, grab, or stuff like that.
Well, I I I, I haven't found a reason to do the two button or three button. I've
Mm-hmm.
only found reason for the one button because honestly, like when kicks and punches seem like they're the exact same
Yeah.
thing, they both do 5 damage to an enemy or whatever. Or maybe the punches
Mm-hmm.
do 5 and the kicks do 6, but take a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough difference there to validate another button. Why not make it a combo to where you press attack, you do a punch, you press it again, you do a kick, you press it again, you do a stronger punch, and you press it again, you do a stronger kick, and that's the end of the combo kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing, definitely, appeals to me more than this is my punch button, this is my kick button. They do basically the exact same thing, except for I can only pick up items with this one button, and they both don't work.
Yeah.
From the takeout there, and it 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 just overcomplicates things. I think for
Hmm.
no good reason,
Yeah, unless.
unless there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Legitimate reason. Like I mean, like they had a little bit of reason for it. If you hit both of them at the same time, you could do a special.
Hmm.
But if you just dump the other button, you could just have a special button like every other fighting
Hmm.
game, every other beat 'em up has.
Yeah. And like getting to Streets of Rage, like that one also has like directional based attacks. Like if you jump and hit the punch, you do a kick. But if you jump and hold down and punch, you do like this kind of like a little like punch, and then transition to other combos.
BDR, what we're referring to is Streets of Rage is the one button kind
Yeah.
of thing. Because, Sega Genesis only had three buttons. One was the
Hmm.
attack, one was jump, and one was special. So it's just a one button attack. And we're talking about ones that have like, a button for, attack, fist, a button for kicks, a button for
Hmm.
jump, a button for, this, a button for that, a button for that. We're talking about the amount of buttons for attacks specifically,
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
like just total buttons,
Yeah.
just the attack buttons. And Streets of Rage only had one, and that's what I really like is the one button in Streets of Rage.
And so
Uh,
did Fight and Rage too.
yeah, Streets of Rage 3 had two buttons though, didn't it?
Mm, I don't. No, I don't think so.
I think Streets of Rage had the I could be remembering, but I think it had the two buttons. I know the Takeover had two buttons,
Yeah.
and that annoyed the crap out of me and felt completely useless.
Yeah. And I do like about having like the special be tied to like a bar or a meter in Fight and Rage, other than just having it cost health. I think it gives a little bit more depth to that combat. And again, I think again so much of what would mean to elevate a beat 'em up really has to come down on the technical side of designing it. That you really need to make the animations feel good. They have to be able to be transitionable, or you can cancel out an animation to do another move, kind of thing. Like it really starts to get. And I think like this will be my final point. Then we'll wrap things up, at least from my side. Like I think like a very highly tuned, very evolved beat 'em up, I think comes really close to almost being a fighting game in terms of its design.
I don't know about coming close to a fighting game, but a move set from a fighting game, yeah, maybe something like that, but not like controls or anything like that.
Hmm.
Which I think is what you're pointing out was the amount of moves and the size of the move set. Isn't that what you're referring to?
Like the move set, kind of like your technical options for fighting enemies, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would agree completely with that.
Hmm.
Um, the there was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where they did their specials where every time you could use your special infinitely, but it would every time it would take one HP from you.
Hmm.
And once you got down to one HP, you could just spam it infinitely,
Yes.
and that was when you were at your most powerful. Was when you were at one HP. Just get
Yeah.
down to one HP and just spam that special and just stay
And
alive.
that was the strat in the Manhattan Project. I think it was TMNT 3 or 4. That you would get you someone like Raph, or I'd use like Raph. He just like his Psycho Crusher, and just like repeat that left and right, left and right, and just kill everything in one hit.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, it was definitely good in those games, but I mean,
It kind of shows again like the how limited some of these beat 'em ups were, either from the player standpoint, from the AI standpoint.
yeah, I bet you anything that the developers wanted to patch that in the original TMT and all these other games
Hmm.
because that got a lot of people a lot less quarters in their game
Hmm.
because that was sort of an exploit of their game kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, like with something like the takeover of Streets of Rage 3, like it kind, or I mean, specifically with Streets of Rage 3, that it felt like it was kind of designed around the fact that they knew people were going to cheat or cheese that game, so they upped all the AI and difficulty, and it didn't really feel as fine tuned as the earlier examples.
Oh yeah, I absolutely disliked Streets of Rage 3. I'm sure in heck glad we did not play that first because I
Hmm.
wouldn't have been interested in playing the other two.
Yeah,
I
but
would.
that is a topic I think we could certainly come back to. So I think that's all I have to say. So, do you have anything you want to end this section on for beat 'em up, Shark?
Uh, well, back to your technical discussion. I think that having a technical fighting game with a good move set
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely critical to making a new beat 'em up game in this day and age. And I think that if they had the ability, they would have done it more in the last age.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I think is absolutely important is smooth animation.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Streets of Rage 1, animations are smooth, it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Streets of Rage 2, those animations are far, far from smooth, and
Mm-hmm.
they're better quality graphics, but the smoothness of the lack of smoothness in the animations made me like the graphics better in one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Streets of Rage 3 had even better graphics than either one of them, and it had a fairly smooth uh, animations. But again, they really wrecked it. I think on their balancing and everything, where they balanced it to basically
Mm-hmm.
make you use exploits to get anywhere in that game,
Yeah.
and that was horrible. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, animation smoothness. I mean, you really need a lot of aspects of aesthetics in these kind of games,
Yeah.
and it just you really need an easy way to animate and put in like. And another thing is you fighting beat 'em ups are notorious for having the same character multiple times just with different color clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's necessarily a downside of things. I mean, it's definitely a shortcut that designers use to be able to save work, and that's a good thing. But I definitely think you can way overdo it. I've seen several fighting games way overdo it to where they're just reusing the same
Yeah.
characters over and over and over and over again.
And then it just becomes like this confusing mess of fighting nothing but clones,
Yeah,
like that
especially
Raging
when
Justice one.
the your characters look like their character, the
Yeah.
enemies.
Yeah.
We had an instance of that in Streets of Rage 1 where there was, matter of fact, all the Streets of Rage, I think, there was a character that looked just like Blaze,
Yeah.
but color. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that kills me.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And I think that's about it.
All right. Well, I think with that, let us wrap things up for this week. I think this was a really, again, like two really good topics that we discussed this time.
Oh yeah, I was like, I was went to Josh and I was like, I think these two need to be the topics for this week. And
Mm-hmm.
Josh was like, yep, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. So, for those of you new, be sure to check out the Discord and Patreon link down below. I'll include links to Shark's Discord as well in the recorded version of this. But if people want to follow you on Twitter, what is the best way?
uh, at Nexus Games INC 1, and you can find me there. And I'll be posting some screenshots, or not necessarily screenshot, but I'll be posting
Mm-hmm.
lots of art from Project Triad at some point soon, whenever soon is.
Quote
It's
unquote
it's it's,
soon.
it's the we apparently are on Valve time right now with my studio with the suit kind of thing, and we and hopefully I get to make this beat 'em up game that I'm really wanting to make. It won't be our next game because the Chromasia remake will be after Project Triad, but maybe after the Chromasia remake, I'm going to try this beat 'em up that I really want to make.
All right. And I am on Twitter at GW Bycer. And we'll be back next Sunday around 3:30, 4 p.m. EST for our next show. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where he's in the art and science of games. Until next time, everyone, have a great night.